Hi everyone. Story time real quick. So this is something that I recently bought out of curiosity. It's a CD version of Bark at the Moon by Ozzy. I bought this directly off of Ozzy's website. It's the 2002 version. Now the reason I note that is because, so a little bit of backup history real quick. So back in 2002, Ozzy was re-releasing the bulk of his solo catalog on CD. Not the entire catalog, a couple albums were dropped. Speak of the Devil, Ultimate Sin, maybe a couple others, but those two spring to mind. More controversially, for Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, for those two albums back in 2002, the original bass and drum parts were removed and re-recorded by two other musicians. And sadly, it was those re-recorded versions that were in circulation for probably the better part of a decade. On a slightly less controversial note, but nonetheless it's something to note either way, for the 2002 version of Bark at the Moon, the album was remixed. Now, the reason I decided to get this off of Ozzy's site recently ties into something that happened to me a little over a decade ago, back around 2012. I was at a Books A Million. They had the 2002 version of Diary of a Madman. Now, under normal circumstances, even then, I would be avoiding that version of the album like the plague. But this was in 2012. The year before, in 2011, they came out with a 30th anniversary version of that album, as well as Blizzard of Oz, and those versions restored the original bass and drum parts. Unfortunately, those have been the versions of the albums that have been in circulation ever since. So, like, if you're streaming those versions on Spotify, iTunes now, you are hearing the original versions of the album. Same with Bark at the Moon. Like, if you go on iTunes, Spotify, and listen to this album, fortunately, it is the original mix. It's not the 2002 remix. But anyway, going back to this copy of Diary of a Madman that I found at a Books A Million back around 2012. As I mentioned before, I would technically, under normal circumstances, be avoiding that CD like the plague. I don't want that version of the album. But knowing that there was now versions of the album that were now available that restored the original parts, I thought to myself, you know what? This is probably going to be one of, if not the last time, I will find that 2002 version in a regular store. That version is going to be going out of print, like, relatively soon. Nowadays, some people might even consider it a collector's item. I don't know. But I thought, you know what? This will be the last time I walk into, like, a regular store that sells CDs and everything, and they have that version. I figure, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just buy it. Better for me to buy it knowing what it is than somebody else to buy it not knowing what it is. I'll take one for the team this time. I'll probably take it home. I'll listen to the first song. Probably won't even make it 10 seconds into it, and then I'll be repulsed by those re-recorded bass and drum parts that I'll just turn it off, and that'll be the end of it. Right? So I got the CD, took it home, popped it in. As soon as I heard the opening drum fill to Over the Mountain, my ears immediately popped up. And not for the reasons I was expecting. I was hearing the original version of that song. That was definitely the original drum part. And then when the song kicked in, I'm like, yep, this is the original. I skipped through the other songs. Original. It still had the bonus track, which was a live version of I Don't Know. The cover to the CD still had the sticker that said it had the re-recorded bass and drum parts. It still said 2002 on the packaging. But the CD I was listening to had the original bass and drum parts. So clearly, at some point down the line, when they were reprinting that CD, they obviously made a switch and just didn't really tell anybody about it. Weird, right? So, bearing that in mind, I thought, well, maybe they did the same thing with Bark at the Moon. So I thought, just out of curiosity, let me buy this from Ozzy's site, since I know that'll be the most recent copy I can get. So I got it. I was listening to it in the car today, and unfortunately, it's the 2002 remix. It's not the original. So unfortunately, yeah, if you're a CD enthusiast, and if you want the original version of Bark at the Moon, do not get the 2002 version. If you want the original album mix, I suggest this CD. This one right here. This is the remastered 1995 CD. This still has the original album mix, so yes, It's from 95. It might be a little hard to find now, but I mean, I'm sure you can probably find it on eBay or whatever. But if you're a CD person and you want Bark of the Moon with the original mix, this is the one you should get. This is the one that my dad had. This is the one that I ripped to my iPod years ago. It's a good sounding CD. Those 95 remastered versions of Ozzy's catalog sounded really good. So if you want the original album mix of Bark of the Moon on CD, I suggest the one with this cover, the 95 CD. Because, I mean, I'm not saying the 2002 remix is bad, but it just doesn't feel like the original album. Some of the guitar parts have been removed in certain songs. The bell at the beginning of Center of Eternity has been changed. You're No Different is actually a longer version of the song. It doesn't even have a fade out. It's just, it has a longer outro. And it's not bad, but again, I'm an original audio enthusiast, as a lot of you probably know. So, if you're like me, and you want the CD version of Bark of the Moon with the original mix, I suggest this version, the 95 CD release. Again, if you're like an iTunes, Spotify guy, fortunately the versions of the album that are available there have the original mix, so you're fine there. But if you're a CD enthusiast, I recommend that CD.